Hey, Joey, there's a ESPN analyst who says there's only 8 teams that can win the NCAA tournament. Alabama, Connecticut, Houston, Kansas, Marquette, Purdue, Tennessee, and UCLA. Do you agree with that? That we've only got 8 teams that can win March Madness, lad?
Did I hear Duke on that list?
Duke is not on that list.
Yeah, so the list is at least one short, and I would argue that Gonzaga can win as well.
Duke and Gonzaga. Let me be devil's advocate. Are you sure that the Dukies are going to get past Oral Roberts?
Yeah, unfortunately I am, because I think they were seeded incorrectly, and that's a shame for Oral Roberts, because we remember 2 years ago they won 2 games as a 15, Brent, and, this time I just don't like the matchup for them. And you're not being a devil's advocate. It sounds to me like you're being a Blue Devils advocate.
Hey, Joey, I'm not sure about this Gonzaga team. I know they took care of business against St. Mary's, but I'm not sure this Gonzaga team is as good as his last couple of teams. Go ahead and point out why you think they can make a run to the Final Four and win it.
Well, they're not as good as his last couple of teams. But, how many times in sports do we see, a team that's good for a period of years or a program, and they just keep knocking on the door, and sometimes the ball bounces for their way when they maybe don't have their best ever team. And here's what I'll tell you. I've been at that West Coast Conference tournament a couple of times now to see how well Gonzaga travels its fan base to Vegas. And the West region is going to be in Vegas. And if they get through to the Sweet 16, and they should be able to do that, it's going to be quite a home court kind of situation for the Bulldogs.
Brent, this turns into the Kennel South, as you alluded to, Joe. It's unbelievable how many people come in from Spokane. You would think it's a second residence down here for them. It's a team I think you got to pay attention to. Joe, you mentioned a couple of the teams. You mentioned Duke and obviously some of the teams that you thought could be a possibility. Tennessee, without Ziegler, how can they overcome that? Because I thought in the game against Missouri, I was on the wrong side there with Tennessee. It seemed like they just weren't able to get consistent offensively. Do you think they can overcome that in Vescovi? I don't think he's going to get nearly as many open looks as he got against Missouri.
I don't think they'll overcome it. I mean, certainly their defense could carry them to a win against Louisiana. But I mean, they're a team that struggles to score a lot in the best of times because they lean on it on the defensive end. And I think if you project the seeds, they're playing Duke at the wrong time and with the wrong lineup.
Joey, brackets here at the South Point. Michael Gahn always gives $10,000 away on Thursday, another $10,000 on Friday for somebody who can pick just the most winners, no point spreads. I got a couple of games I can't decide on, so you're going to decide for me. West Virginia and Maryland tomorrow. Who will win that game, Joey Brackets?
I really like West Virginia in that one, Brent. If you look at Maryland's home-road splits, now obviously this is neutral, but it's not being played in College Park. Maryland struggles away from home, and West Virginia's been in that Big 12 all year, and, there's nothing that's going to faze Bob Huggins.
Let's go to Des Moines. Give me the winner of the Penn State-Texas A&M game.
The Aggies, I think, like Duke, underseeded a bit in this tournament, given how they played in the back end of the season. Tempted by Penn State, Brent, but more often than not, teams like them that make a long 4 or 5 day run in their conference tournaments as a lower seed, they run out of gas late, so I go with the Aggies.
In Birmingham, I'm taking Auburn over Iowa. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because believe it or not, we talked about Maryland as being not a great road team or a team away from home. Iowa's even worse. Iowa scores 12 fewer points outside of Iowa City per game.
Joe, how does a team like Auburn get a game what essentially is a home game in Birmingham?
because I think the committee made a mistake. Now, it's allowable by rule because it's not a place that they played more than 3 regular season games, meaning an arena where they played more than 3 regular season games. I think it's just a common sense miss by the committee here. And in fairness to the committee, there are so many Big Ten and SEC teams seeded 7, 8, 9, and 10 that they may have been stuck doing it anyway, because there may have only been limited spots to put some of those SEC and Big Ten teams to avoid regular season or interconference rematches.
On Friday, Columbus, Ohio, USC and Michigan State, Joey. Who do I take?
I like Michigan State, if only because of, it being Big Ten country, again, a place where Michigan State plays every year. USC traveling across the country. For me, the Trojans a bit of an underachiever in the regular season. And, in this kind of role as a middling seed, historically, Tom Izzo's been pretty good.
Be careful on the next one. Greensboro. Kansas State against the great Bobcats of Bozeman, Montana State. Who do you like, Joey?
Well, I really, 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 really don't like Montana State.
How did I know that was coming, Amal, from my buddy?
We have the governor of Montana with us.
Well, I remember once when the governor of Iowa called me in my office in my old day job days to complain about a bracket, and that was only the second craziest call I ever got. One time, it was Brent. Iowa was playing Wisconsin. My secretary says, Brent Musburger's on the phone, and I thought it was one of my friends punking me. And Brent, it was you.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.